All right. Think we are live now. See here. I'm gonna give it a little bit of time just so everybody can we can get some more people coming in here. This. All right. We are at 10:01. I'll give it a couple more seconds, let some people come in, and then we can get started on driver ID validation inside of Opendock. Perfect. Okay, let's get started. So I am Tyler Walton. I am the enterprise account manager here at Loadsmart, specifically for all of our enterprise Opendock accounts. But today I'm going to be running a webinar discussing our ID validation, specifically tied to our gate management process. So the driver check-in. Um, we can go ahead and get started on this. Happy Friday, everyone. If you have any questions, I'm not sure if I can see a lot of those during the actual presentation, so we will save them to the end. But I do have some people helping me on my end to be able to facilitate those, and they could jump in at any time if needed, but we will definitely save those to the end. There's also going to be a live demo on here towards the end. So if you did have a time to be here towards the end of the webinar would probably be best. But let's go ahead and get started. So let me take one step back. So driver ID validation, what is it? It's validating the driver's ID, obviously. So once they actually arrive to the facility, most facilities I work with, they go ahead and take a picture or go to their fax machine and print out a copy of their ID before they enter their facility. And where that paper goes, we don't know. Maybe they take a picture of it on their phone and manually upload it to their system or upload it to Opendock. We do have something through gate management today that is a document upload. And you could upload a ID, but this is going to be to where it's actually making sure it's an ID, make sure the driver is who he says he is. And you'll learn during this webinar of how many scans we actually do to actually validate that. So some housekeeping rules I was told to go over here. So the session is being recorded. I believe we'll be sending it out afterwards. I think they'll be blocking out my ID information, so that way we don't have to worry about that. But I did want to kind of give you a live demo. So use the chat for questions. Again, I'm not sure if I can really see those during the session while I'm presenting, so I want to make sure I get those questions answered for you at the end. And then resources to follow the session. So we'll get you in touch with your AMs if there's anyone that is interested in seeing a demo specifically for their accounts and their scenario, because everyone has a different scenario when it comes to check-in. Should be a pretty quick webinar. I mean, scanning your ID is pretty fast. So the reason why we wanted to get into more security at the gate and yard. So one of the main things that we did recently and in the last year or so is get our smart gate operation up, AI vision cameras to really kind of scan everything on the truck, on the outside of the truck as it arrives. So license plate number, DOT number, trailer number, asset, who the carrier is. Now, when they came, we wanted to capture everything on the inside of the cab, who the driver is. And we did that through our gate management process, but we never scanned their ID and validated it. You can upload it, but we never validated it. And Jan on our team was kind enough to put together a pretty, I don't know if we want to use scary as the word or shocking report that cargo theft has just been absolutely insane and on the rise for the last few years. So why now? Pretty obvious. More thefts, more people stealing out of yards and at facilities. So it is built into our self check-in, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. So we built the gate management process to streamline the check-in process, so someone can come in, check into their appointments, and it'll do the work for you. So that way your team doesn't have to check in any appointments. It is kind of a smooth process to where they can either use a QR code or a tablet to check into the facility. We just did it on top of that. So adding that one step of, hey, we want you to scan your ID at this facility, and we wanted to validate it to make sure you are who you say you are. Obviously, the obvious reasons are for security. but really automatic data capture and compliance, right? If you're setting a standard for your drivers as they arrive, this is something that you can add to that. So I like to call it gate management on steroids, but really the main piece here is just making sure the people that are arriving at your facility are who they say they are. Verifying the ID. So when we verify it, it's supported across over 200 countries. So we are international. We actually use one of the top softwares to be able to scan these because we do use a third-party software inside of our gate management to scan these IDs and save in the database. It's built into the existing flow, as I mentioned. But you can confirm the match in many different ways. If you want to confirm just the issue date, right? The expiration date, or if you want them to do a face scan to make sure their face matches the actual ID that they're scanning, you can validate the actual driver there. So I believe this works in paper as well. So if they have a temporary ID, they can scan their paper ID, not just the actual ID that they have, but it does flag multiple different things and gives you a reason of that. So when it declines it, it's going to flag it as, hey, this is expired, or facial recognition didn't match the person on the ID. There's many different things that this goes through when you upload that ID and the verification process. Going into those identity checks. So this is something that we send out to all of our customers if they were interested in learning more of what these identity checks are. There is 15 by default, but 26 more that are available during the implementation process. So you guys can go through, the real ID that we have on all of our IDs now, the front, back, barcode, face scan, how detailed you want this scan and this verification to be, or how easy you want it to be, right? I just want front and back and that's it. I don't care about a face scan. I just need to be able to verify that this is an ID that's not expired. But on the other side of that, you guys can even ping AAMVA in that state for the government to make sure it's not a suspended license, or a little bit more of a background check on that ID as well. So that way you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck for this verification. So you can pick and choose which one of these you want during the implementation setup. And that is all information that we have that we can easily send out to our customers. Now, faster check-in. So this is optional. This is not something that is just a one and done. It's going to save the information. They don't need to redo anything as they come in, because we do have customers that they want every single person to check in, no matter if they're returning drivers. So what this is it's going to save the ID in the database for when they check in. So that way there's a faster option. If you have returning drivers, maybe it's a internal fleet or a shuttle service, or anybody that is a driver that is on a cadence of coming to your warehouse, once they scan their ID the first time and verify it, it's going to save their information. So that way, when they go into the process again and check into your facility, it's similar to your phone. When you look at your phone and the face scan just opens it up and it unlocks it because they know who you are, right? You don't need to type in your password every single time. Very similar to that. They'd go in, they'd scan their face, and everything's already a check. They already have the expiration date on there. They have every piece of information that is going to validate this ID. So makes it for a faster visit, faster check-in for that process. But again, optional, because we do have customers that say, I don't care if they return 6 times a day. We need to make sure they have the correct ID or an ID that we're scanning. So definitely optional on process. And then the validation rules. So everything's really configurable inside of this. So not every dock, not every facility needs the same thing. A lot of the times people try to do standardization, which is great. I think that's amazing to do. But I totally understand that if you roll out 10 locations on Opendock, each one of those locations are just a little bit different or completely different, right? Every warehouse is a little bit different on how they do things, their terminology, the way they operate, the way they want to load, unload, check in, check out. So we totally agree with that and understand that. That's why we want to make it kind of like a per site configurable piece here. So if you have one site that wants to face scan and do the whole shebang of the entire validation process, but the other site is maybe just taking in some diapers and toilet tissue, whatever the case may be, and I don't need that much validation, but I still want their ID. You can pick and choose where that lies. So we have a lot of that in our customer base where there's a lot of locations in one, and everyone is different on how they like to validate and the different levels of security. And then compliance and reporting. So everything is stored onto the appointment level. Similar to what you see if you do have gate management today, if someone was to check into your facility, whatever information that they check in with is going to be attached to that appointment. So you're going to open it up and see, hey, Tyler checked in at this time. Here's the PO he's here for. Here's the BOL he uploaded. All the custom information that you want to gather from that driver, it's currently on the appointment during gate management. This is no different than that. This is going to store the information during the check-in, and it's actually going to give you a little check mark that says driver ID verified or not verified. And when it doesn't, if it's not verified, it gives you the reason. And then we want to leave it up to the facility to then decide what they want to do. I was just in Dallas this whole week, and I was talking to our customers about what their process would be. Some said, hey, I need them to pull to the side and we need to talk to their carrier. We need to talk to where they're from. And it's just kind of a case by case basis if we can take that load with the driver not having a valid ID. Now, we had other customers that just said, yeah, we'll acknowledge it, we'll report it, but we need our freight. We need to keep going. So, again, a lot of different ways that we've seen, and we want to be flexible enough to be able to tell you what is wrong or what happened to this check-in. That way you can determine what you want to do with it. But the one source of truth will always be there, that you can open up the appointment and really see, hey, this guy tried to check in with a invalid ID, it's expired, or it is suspended, or his face is not the face that's on the ID, right? So that's a lot of the pieces that we want to be able to show you. Oh, the good stuff. All right, let me go ahead and switch my sharing to my other monitor here so we can do a live demo. So I'll stop share here. I'll go ahead and open that up. Now, I'm assuming if it's not showing my Opendock account, someone might pop on here and say, hey, can't see anything, but I'm just going to assume that this is showing that my staging account here. So we're going to go through the gate management process because that's where this lies. So I'm going to take this appointment here that I have at 11 a.m. I'm going to take the reference number, 12345. I shouldn't need to copy it, but I'm on a little amount of sleep and dad brain, so I will copy 12345 and go through the check-in process. So during the check-in process, if you're not familiar with gate management, the carrier is going to scan a QR code at the gate, at the driver room. We've seen so many creative ways our customers use the QR code for during the check-in. I mean, they even put it, a couple streets down so that way they can catch them before they come in, right? So a lot of different ways that we've seen this. But then a very popular way is also a tablet, right? As like a kiosk. And as the driver comes in, he could simply just go ahead and see this URL on the tablet and go ahead and start his check-in. They can choose their language. So any language that they check in with currently, or if they, speak a certain language, maybe it's going to make it easier for them to do their native language for check-in. And then they're going to start it. So they're going to go ahead and start their check-in. They're going to let you know your purpose once you get into, what asset details you want to capture. But this I have set up specifically just for driver ID verification. So the reference number. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. 12345 is the PO number or the reference number I'm arriving at the facility for. That way, when they check in, it ties it directly to the appointment that they're there for, and your team could just say, hey, they arrived, they're good to go. I'm going to use Loadsmart as an example here. I'm going to use my phone number. I use my phone number, and we make this a requirement because we do have two-way SMS inside of gate management as well. So you can actually text the driver. So let's say this verification process doesn't go through. He tries to check in and he has a suspended license. You can even text the driver at that point and say, hey, we found some flags. You need to pull over to this zone and wait for somebody to go and talk to you, or you need to call your dispatch. right? And in any case, you can communicate with the driver without having to go out to the yard, or maybe you need to assign him to a different dock. Everything's good, everything's validated, but you want to use that workflow for two-way SMS. So that is why we make that a requirement inside of here. And then other customizations, like simply in my staging account, I just have, they have the option to upload a VOL, but really you can go down the line. For California, you can do ISR reporting. There's a lot of great stuff inside of here. I'll do a gate management demo for anybody that needs it, but I definitely want to show you the verification process. So now what you'll see inside of here, so this orange button here would be finish check-in, right? They're done with their check-in, but now we added verify and check-in. So I have my ID here. I'm going to go ahead and verify this. And this is just in my staging account. So this is just going to be a sandbox environment of mine. But I can begin the verification process. And as you can see inside of all these different countries, I can choose what country I'm checking in from. Select it. And then what I'll do is I'll actually try my best. I know there's some glare here in my computer camera. Usually it's better on my phone or really a tablet. But let me go ahead and take a picture of my ID here. So I didn't have to take it. It actually read it once it got all the stuff that it needed, all the data. So I'm going to use that photo. I have the back of my ID as well to gather barcode. So it's going to go ahead and grab that. Use this photo, and then it's going to process it, make sure it's reading everything correctly. Maybe there was a blur and it needs a rescan or whatever the case may be. It's going to go ahead and make sure it is. This is the tricky part because I'm working off of two monitors, so don't mind me if my eyeballs are drifting here. But to get started, I have to look directly into the camera, and hopefully I see that everything's green and good to go. And then it looks slightly to the left, slightly to the right, and it is verifying. Awesome. So that's actually harder to do, to look to the right, but my eyes go left. But congratulations, you are done. The verification is done. So we've completed the process of scanning my ID, scanning my face, and now it's actually going to go through the process of, is my face who I say I am on the screen, and maybe take the glasses out of it. I know IDs, you can't really have hats on and all that good stuff, and maybe they would make sure that their hat is off during the scan. But once I hit done, it's actually going to go and give the appointment details, say that they're checked in. You can have customized notifications out to the driver of what they need to do when they're checked in. And when I go back to the appointments itself, it's going to say it's turned the status to arrived. It checked in. We're good to go. It is checked in by the carrier. And let me go ahead and refresh this just so I can make sure that everything in my staging environment's up. I saw something on the top left here. But if I go to my two arrivals, I can go ahead and simply just go to my planned, and it's going to have driver ID validated. Now, if it's declined, it's going to have a red mark that says declined, and it's going to give you the reason for it. But right here, just simply enough, I would hope that my ID matches me. Driver ID is validated, and it is for the correct PO of me checking in. So I have all the information stored there. Everything's on the back end for storing their ID and verification. It's not going to display their picture on the appointment for security purposes. Now, you can have their picture uploaded to the appointment, have like a standard of saying whenever I need to pull their actual picture of their ID, I can, but we're not going to make that by default just because security purposes, right? That's people's information. We don't want anybody downloading that right away. But inside the appointment here, I can see that's checked in by the carrier. And if I needed to go in for any reason to make sure that something is verified, if I wanted to go check it, here's the check mark that something is validated. And during the gate and yard check-in process, if there was anything that went wrong with it, if it was not validated, it would give you that reason inside the appointment. So that way, really that one-stop shop, that one source of truth data that you can pull and see who is arriving at your facility, what are they bringing, are they a correct driver, are they ready to go? Everything's set in place there when you have that security measure. But like I said, very, very simple stuff. I'll go back to the slides here. Stop sharing. I'll go ahead and do my other desktop. But really, it's a very quick webinar because that is the process, right? We're just adding that last step. If you need to be able to have extra security and validate people's IDs, it's really the same process they do with gate management. It's just now pull out your ID and scan it inside of Opendock, rather than a security guard taking this and faxing it or taking a picture on his phone and maybe uploading it to something later, an Excel sheet, whatever manual process is today. you can go ahead and get all that wrapped up into one and have it all into one system, so you're not paying multiple different ones. I know there might be some chat here, and I promise we're to the end. So if there's some questions that popped up, I'm excited to hear them. Let me go into this and go into our next thing. So the last thing I wanted to relay out to everyone that is joined or watching this is the 6 things you can learn from just talking to your AM and maybe getting a demo like this. And talking to your account manager or even our sales team if you're not on Opendock or if you're a new location is looking at it. I don't want to have to bore you and go down all 6 lines here, but I do want to let you know that talking to our AMs and talking to someone on the team, you can then go into detail of your scenario, saying, "Hey, this is what we do today. Can we digitalize that? Can we verify them? Can we add some security to our process? Because that's what we built this for." And that's why we have it optional. That's why we want to be able to say, "Hey, does this warehouse need this, but this warehouse does not?" We want to be able to give you the flexibility to say so. So if you guys do have those processes, I highly encourage to reach out. You can always reach out to anyone on our team and we'll be able to help. Last one is Q&A. I think I have 9 minutes. So I know now we have Mar coming up on the webinar here to help out with those questions, but I appreciate everyone taking the time to see all that with me.
Awesome. Great job, Tyler. We do have one question in the chat. Vanessa asked if there's a way to run a report with all of the validations.
Yes. Yeah. So our engineer has access to the back end of the what was it? The third party system that is our validation process. So it stores all of that in there. And once you sign up for that information or for that tool for the driver ID verification, you have access to be able to have anybody when they check in. Now on the UI of Opendock, when you pull those reports, everything will be in there as the check-in details, right? It's attached to the appointment, and we all know if you pull a report, it's pulling all the appointment information in there. But if you needed extra on top of that to go ahead and get a hold of our team and say, "Hey, I need a full report on, if it pinged the government and all of our scans for the last month or so." Both ways are doable.
Awesome. And it looks like those are all of the questions for today. So if anybody else has any questions, they can reach out to their account managers. We'll share the recording after the call along with some additional resources. Is there anything else you want to add, Tyler?
No. If there's no questions, I'll take that as it was very clear. We went over it pretty good. But yeah, please reach out to anyone on our team. We're able to help. We're really kind of driving towards more of a not just appointment creation and when they check in getting that process done, but we're really getting into the field of during appointment creation all the way throughout check-in, while they're dropping stuff off, check out, even the EBOL stuff we're doing and stuff like that. We want to make sure everything's encompassed for you guys to be able to pull a report on anybody showing up and what they're bringing, so that way we can't. I don't think anybody in the world can prevent theft. If they're going to rip a door off a building, if they're going to rip off fences and steal something, that's just something that we're going to do. But if anyone arrived at your facility and you need to have that kind of data and report on it, we want to make sure we help out with that.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tyler. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Have a great weekend.